bare necessity, but simple bare necessity. Bare necessity, but simple bare necessity.
Hey there, it's Bre, and today I'm going to be doing my wrap up for January and February. I meant to film this and have it up like a million years ago, but here we are. The first book that I completed was Eliza and Her Monsters by Francesca Zappia, and this is a contemporary YA. This follows Eliza Merck, who is socially awkward and kind of quiet in real life, but online she is Lady Constellation, an anonymous creator of the very popular webcomic Monstrous Sea. The story picks up when this new kid Wallace comes to her school. She ends up discovering that he actually is one of the most popular fanfiction writers of her webcomic. Once Eliza has learned his secret, she struggles with deciding whether she should continue to hide her own secret or reveal her own truths as their relationship blooms. One of the things I loved about this book was chat room formattings, and I really enjoy those. And it also includes actual images of the webcomic, which I thought was really cool. I really thought the romance was absolutely adorable, and I also loved that all of the characters were flawed. There were a lot of quotable moments and lines within the book, also a lot of hidden gems of advice that I think everyone should read and experience and learn. However, things I didn't like included that I felt Wallace in one particular part of the book. He's very selfish. I just didn't really like how some of that went down. My overall rating for Eliza and Her Monsters is a 4 out of 5 stars. So the second book I completed in January was Empire Storms by Sarah J. Maas. I listened to this via audiobook, and it is a YA fantasy series. It is, I think, like the fifth or so book. I'm gonna give you the synopsis of the first book in the series rather than this one because that would contain spoilers. The Throne of Glass series follows Selena Sardothian, who is an assassin who was captured and spent a year in the slave labor run salt mines of Endovier. The story begins with the crowned prince, Dorian Haviliard, coming to meet Selena and give her the opportunity to potentially win her freedom by serving as the king's champion and doing his bidding. However, to become the champion, Selena must first compete in a fierce competition against assassins, thieves, warriors. Selena trains with the prince's best friend and the captain of the guard, K.L. Westfall. K.L. doesn't really trust her even to sleep at night without a guard outside of her door. The competition is already fierce but becomes more and more deadly as one competitor after another turns up dead. Selena works to solve these murders as she continues to compete in a competition that started out for her freedom and has turned into a fight for her life. Some of the things I loved about this addition to the series was that it brought a lot of things back from the novellas, which I really enjoyed, and there are also a lot of plot twists involved that were really intense. I really find this story to be very addictive to read because there are so many things happening and you really like the characters a lot, but there are a few things I don't totally love. Her use of repetition, like this. Again and again and again and again and again and again and again was the last thing she saw before darkness consumed her. Breath I didn't realize I was holding. So we have some of those types of cliches in her writing, which really annoy me personally. I really honestly am kind of ready for the end of the series, the fact that the story is completely different from what we initially picked up to read. Like I said earlier, the story is addictive. However, I do think that you are sacrificing a quality of writing when reading these books. I forgot to put my book on the shelf. There we go. The third book that I completed was also an audiobook, and this was called Let Me Lie by Claire McIntosh. This was kind of like a murder mystery thriller type situation. So the story follows Anna Johnson, and we start the story on the anniversary of her mother's death. Her mother committed suicide a few months after her father committed suicide. Anna receives a card on that day and she opens it up and it's an anniversary card. It says like happy anniversary on it. Then she opens it and reads it and it says suicide, think again. So we follow Anna trying to figure out the truth behind her parents' deaths. Some of the things I really enjoyed about this story were there were a lot of plot twists and turns throughout the story. I also purchased this book on a complete whim. On Audible they had like a buy 2 for 1 credit, one book that I knew I wanted to get, and I was like, I'll just pick up something else while they have the sale, and I picked that one up and I really loved it. Honestly, I don't even remember things that I didn't like. overall I give it a 5-star rating. The next book that I completed was A Winter's Promise by Christelle Dabos, and this is actually a very interesting book because it is a French to English translation, and it is the first book in a series called The Mirror Visitor. I have a lot of thoughts on this one, so let's get into the synopsis first. And I'm going to put this one down because honestly they're kind of heavy to hold up the book like the whole time I'm giving you the synopsis. So here's the book. Okay, now I'm gonna put it in. By the way, this is a fantasy novel, so this is a kind of confusing synopsis, so I'm gonna try to explain it the best that I can. The story takes place after an event called the Rupture caused the world to literally like blow up in chunks of earth that people live on. They're called arcs. So like to go from one arc to another, you have to like take an airship. So it's like, you know, they're out in space floating around, these arcs are, okay? So we follow our main character, Ophelia, who's from an arc called Anima, and she actually works as a museum curator, which suits her perfectly because she actually has the ability to touch objects and see their past. And she also has another very rare and unique ability to pass through mirrors, so she can actually like travel from one place to another by looking herself in the mirror and like, reaching into it. And she's really happy with her life. But at the very beginning of the story, we discover that Ophelia is being forced into a political marriage. The man that she's being forced to marry is actually from another arc, which is very rare. Normally you marry like within your arc. So she is supposed to be married to this guy named Thorn. He's from the Pole, which is another arc. People on Anima don't really know anything about the Pole other than the fact that the place is extremely cold and the people are even colder in the way that they treat each other. They are hunters and they may be barbaric. He comes to meet her on Anima and take her away to the Pole. When she first meets him, she realizes he's not really too keen on this marriage either. So we follow Ophelia as she really tries to figure out why she has been forced into this marriage and if there's any way that she could get out of it, and if not, how she might be able to survive on this icy block of earth. Some of the things I really enjoyed about this book were the writing. I found was very artful, even as translated. Every single one of our characters is flawed. There are a ton of plot twists in the story as well, which I really like, and the magic system is very unique. Some of the things I disliked about this was there was like literally absolutely no world building. I genuinely could not understand how this world came to be. I actually had to look up other people's reviews to read their synopsis of the story to be able to understand anything about the world. Like, it took me a lot to actually get to the point where I understood the world, and it really wasn't until after I read it. So it definitely disrupted my enjoyment of the story by the fact that I really it did make sense. Like, it wasn't explained well enough, in my opinion. And my other main complaint, relationships were really negative. There wasn't really any relationship that Ophelia had with anybody that was genuinely just a happy, positive relationship. And that kind of bothered me. Yes, relationships have their ups and downs, but she should at least have a friend in someone. So it really kind of bothered me in that regard. I do think that the writing may be a little hard for some people to get into because it is a translated work. Overall, I give this book a 4 out of 5 stars. I think I would enjoy it more on a second read. The next book comes out really soon, so I'm excited for that. And also, I would be intrigued to try reading this in French. I think that would be pretty interesting. So the next book that I completed was for the Brereadathon. I read Fragments of the Lost by Megan Miranda. Our main character is Jessica, and we follow her as she has just been asked by her ex-boyfriend's mom to clean out his room and pack everything away because they are moving. She finds a lot of things that make her remember things from the past and also question some of the things that happened. And she ends up kind of starting to question whether what happened to him really was an accident. I did like that all of the characters in this were very flawed and that the relationships were complex in a lot of ways. My negative feedback is really just from the get-go, we kind of have this like unsettling feeling around a character. It kind of leads us to always not trust them. Overall, who the bad guy was could have been way more mysterious. All in all though, I do give it a 4.75 out of 5 stars. I did really like it. The next one was also for the Brereadathon, and that is Lucky Suit by Lauren Blakely, and it is a contemporary romance. It's kind of more in the new adult kind of situation, but it doesn't really have any content that would keep you from reading it as a young adult. And I listened to this via audiobook. This follows Kristen, who is tired of being set up by people in her life, like her grandmother and her friends and that kind of thing, because it just doesn't work out for her and she just is frustrated with all of that type of dating. And so she decides that she's exclusively going to online date. However, her grandmother has not given up on trying to match her up. The story was cute and there was actually kind of a little bit of a twist on what you would expect happens within the story. My main complaint is that though the concept was good, it really just felt like I was listening to a Hallmark movie because it was so short. It was literally like 2 hours long. There had been more build to some of the things that happened than it could have been, so much more than it was. Also, some of the dialogue was extremely cringy, just not how people talk in real life, especially not people of the age that these characters are supposed to be. Like, I did enjoy it, so I did enjoy it, although I had some complaints, so I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. Next, I reread volume 1 of Orange by Ichiko Takano, and I really enjoyed this reread. This story follows a character named Naho, and she has this really nice group of friends that she stays close to throughout her life, which we know because we get these flashes into the future. And it starts on her first day back from her summer break, running late, getting ready. She sees this letter for her, and so she grabs it and throws it in her bag, and later discovers that it's actually a letter from her future self. It's telling her about this new kid, Kakiru, and he's coming into her class, and her future self is actually asking Naho to save him. This actually is a bind-up of the first 3 volumes. When they translated it to English, they bound it up 3 volumes together at a time. It's like a very contemporary feeling manga. Of course, complaints would be just that the way that they talk to each other is very different from how we talk to each other. It's just the style of the writing and the style of writing manga. It could be the culture of the way that people in this culture would talk to each other in real life, but it could also be just the culture of the writing itself, like the culture of writing manga. The next book that I completed was Tower of Dawn by Sarah J Maas. So if you want a synopsis of the series for the Throne of Glass series, then go back and listen to that earlier in the video. I liked the development of characters in it. We got to know some characters a little bit better, some sides of them that I don't think that they really knew about themselves, so I really liked that. And I also enjoyed the development of the story. Same complaints as before as far as Sarah J Maas's writing goes. There's some issues with the writing, but overall it was just so enjoyable that you can't help but give it 4 stars, right? So the last book that I read in January and February was Crazy Rich Asians by Kevin Kwan. And this is an adult romantic contemporary. This story follows Rachel, who has been invited by her boyfriend Nick to actually go and meet his family in Singapore and spend the summer there because he has this wedding that he has to go to. So he's like, well, you might as well come and we can turn it into a vacation. That he left out a few key details about his life and his family. His family is insanely, extremely, ridiculously rich. Now that his best friend is getting married, he's now the most eligible bachelor in the entire country. Basically, here are my thoughts. Some of the things I really liked were the culture, and I really liked that it had the footnotes like this. Like, it would have this little footnote here at the bottom to explain something that is marked up here, like a term or a phrase or like political or social groups, types of things like that we may not know because we're not a part of this culture. So I really enjoyed that, but I don't think that's necessarily a problem of the book so much as a problem of my approach into the book. I think it's kind of pitched as a little bit like more fun than it is to read. And I say that because it's literally like the entire book is about drama, not about Nick and Rachel trying to work through this secret that he kept, which is what you expect it to be about. No, it's about the drama that she has between all of these rich people. That none of the characters were really likable at all. There are a couple of people that, you know, we do like, but we don't even see enough of those people vicious and cruel and rude. And that's not how people are in real life. I don't care how much money they have or how little money they have. Like, the amount of money that somebody has nothing to do with how they are as a person, because that's definitely not the case, and most rich people are actually subtle and really, really nice, and you don't even know that they're rich. Normal people, I get that these are definitely not the normal people type of rich people, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're horrible human beings. And I hate that it portrayed all the rich people as like just garbage humans. The bride had planned the party. The bride isn't the one that plans the bachelorette, it's the maid of honor. The best man is the one that actually does the bachelor party. This other guy coming in and having all of this other crap that he's trying to throw into this party should never have happened. Problematic elements that weren't necessary. That is another, I know it's a small thing to some people, but it's like something that takes you out of the story. It's not actually how it works because he clearly knows nothing about how weddings work. Got through a lot of this book before I really just decided that I was going to take a step back and try to read it like I watch a Hallmark movie. I watch a Hallmark movie knowing that there's going to be cringy dialogue, that it's not quality writing. So it depends, I think, on how you approach the book. I think it has been cast as like this really fun book. I didn't find it fun because I was so mad at some of the things that were happening in it. So I may try to read this one more time in the future, and if it gets better for me after reading it a second time and continuing on and reading it with a different kind of like viewpoint and perspective on what the story is really supposed to be. My rating for this is literally just inconclusive. I just didn't even rate it because I don't know how to feel about it. So that is everything that I read in January and February. Talk to you guys very soon with another video. Thanks for watching and peace out, Bear Scouts.
Bare necessities, but simple bare necessities. Forget about your worries and your strife. I mean it, bare necessities. That's why a bear can rest at ease with just the bare necessities of life. Yeah, with just the bare necessities of life.